My name is Mr. Smiley, and that's right, everybody, we're back into some reaction videos. If you're new to the channel, my name is Mr. Smiley. We do all sorts of different stuff on this channel. We do reaction videos, games, but as you see from the title, I did react to a video like this before, but apparently it wasn't like the best one to react to, so I got redirected. So thank you guys so much. I'm reacting to an SCP video. This one is Explained, a modern introduction to the SCP Foundation. I always get that mixed up. This one is by the Volgan. I'm actually going to go ahead and subscribe to him. So thank you so much for the comment on that as well. You can check that out right there. So much. I'm welcome to the community. I want to actually get into this properly. I want to know what it's about, what all this is and that. I'm actually going to be playing some games on this as well. So if you are new to the channel, we do games, live streams, all that good stuff. So I'm going to be playing a game of this as well. Suggest me the best game to play on this, because I want to play like a really, really good game, a spooky game. It's Halloween, you can see. We got the Halloween decorations. Sunny's back there. We got the pumpkins. It's all ready. We're gonna get into this right here. This one's a little bit longer video. This one's actually 35 minutes and 4 seconds long. So I don't want to have a huge intro. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. You guys came here to see the video and not me blabbing. So let's do it. I'm gonna make sure this is turned up. Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
So, you stumbled upon or heard about a thing called SCP.
Yes.
And you're wondering what it's all about.
Yes.
This guide has all the information you need to know about what the SCP Foundation is and what it has to offer you. Think of it as the ultimate primer to the universe, and the wiki as it is and should be seen today.
Okay.
This guide is split up into 3 sections, and they are as follows. Number 1, the basics. An introduction to the SCP Foundation and wiki, covering the SCP format, object classes, in-universe lore about the Foundation, and important vocabulary, and why it all matters. Number 2, in-universe elements. This covers some background information and a lot of commonly used terms that might leave a new reader lost or confused.
Ooh, okay.
Number 3, things to read and do. A tour of the entire SCP universe, covering all modes of writing and different kinds of pieces that you can read. From -Js to EXs, 001 proposals to groups of interest, tales, and canons. There's a lot more than just the SCP series.
Jeez.
Okay, let's get started.
The basics. Let's go.
Operating clandestine and worldwide, the Foundation operates beyond jurisdiction, empowered and entrusted by every major national government with the task of containing anomalous objects, entities, and phenomena. These anomalies pose a significant threat to global security by threatening either physical or psychological harm.
Oh, wow.
Introduction. The SCP Foundation is a collaborative writing platform centering around a fictional foundation, a scientific and military organization that seeks to protect humanity and the status quo by locating and containing anomalies, objects, life forms, events, locations, concepts, creations, and phenomena that, in one way or another, violate natural law.
Oh, that's interesting.
On the SCP Wiki, authors tell stories and explore ideas within this urban fantasy science fiction universe, creating rich pieces of writing that take place in a world where the anomalous exists and how people and organizations interact with them. These articles may showcase the different types of phenomena that might exist in this universe, the SCPs themselves, or tell compelling narratives about life and interactions within the SCP world, tales, canons, and groups of interest formats. The central focus of the SCP Wiki is the SCP file, commonly referred to as just an SCP. It is a set of in-universe technical documentation supposedly compiled by the Foundation in an effort to understand, analyze, experiment with, and most importantly, contain the anomaly. The SCP file is, in effect, a form of constrained writing, an immersive way to tell a story about the nature and history of an anomalous object or entity, whether directly or by hinting at some greater idea. Each SCP is given a unique serial number or designation.
Right, I was trying to figure this out.
And on the wiki, you can browse SCPs with designations ranging from 1 to 3,999.
Jeez.
They are organized into 4 numerical series.
The dates.
Series 1, SCP-1 through to 999. Series 1 was written from 2007 to 2011.
Okay.
Series 2, SCP-1000 through to SCP-1999. Series 2 was written from 2011 to 2013. Series 3, SCP-2000 through to SCP-2999. Series 3 was written from 2013 to 2017. And Series 4, SCP-3000 through to SCP-3999. This series is still being written, but it started in 2017.
I was gonna say it's still growing.
The SCP format.
What is that?
An SCP file has a very specific format that, in general, must be strictly adhered to. SCPs are the backbone of the entire franchise. These documents are the set pieces of the universe, showcasing its tone, stories, and possibilities.
Okay.
The basic format of an SCP is as follows. Item number, SCP hyphen, then the number. Object class, then a category name. Special containment procedures, then a detailed summary of all specific means needed to make sure the anomaly is safely contained. Description, then a technically written documentation of all things that the anomaly is, does, and can do. And finally, supplements. Optional additional files added onto the base document.
That's
Each
so
SCP
cool.
is given an object class based on the degree of containment difficulty. Here are the primary object classes. Safe. The anomaly can be contained by simply leaving it alone. No special procedures, methods, or events are necessary to keep it from damaging the world. This does not necessarily mean it's not dangerous. A safe class object can be world-threatening if not contained, but it's just really easy to contain them.
Are they talking about the real world or the world in here? Because that's pretty wild.
Some notable examples of safe class SCPs are SCP-1981, SCP-2579, SCP-993, SCP-1425, and SCP-3039.
Yo.
All examples will be in the video description.
This is wow.
Next, Euclid. The anomaly is inherently unpredictable or requires some amount of special effort to be contained. You're not quite sure what will happen if you leave it alone, and it might be a little bit more complex than a safe class entity, object, or phenomenon. Some notable examples of Euclid class SCPs are SCP-3008, SCP-426, SCP-1171,
Yo.
SCP-3001, and SCP-1609.
This is wild.
And finally, Keter. These SCPs are really difficult to contain, requiring a huge expenditure of resources or extensively complex containment procedures. The most dangerous of phenomena are classed as Keter, often, but not always, posing an existential threat to humanity, the world, or universal structure itself.
Talking about the actual
Some
world.
notable examples of Keter class SCPs are SCP-1739, SCP-231, SCP-2935, SCP-2293, and SCP-3200.
Yo.
In addition, there are a number of esoteric and secondary classes that are used much less than the big three that I just mentioned, but still serve important purposes.
Yeah.
Thaumiel. This is a very rare object class only known to the highest levels of the Foundation. In essence, Thaumiel class objects are anti-Keter. They are used in the containment or counteracting of other SCPs. They act as powerful tools to be used by the Foundation, which normally rarely uses anomalies. Some notable examples of Thaumiel class SCPs are SCP-2000, SCP-2003, SCP-3000, SCP-179, and SCP-3031.
Okay.
And finally, Neutralized. It used to be anomalous, now it's not. Maybe it just stopped working on its own. Maybe someone accidentally or purposefully destroyed it. Either way, it no longer has functional anomalous properties.
It gets me thinking, man.
Some notable examples of neutralized class SCPs are SCP-1470, SCP-2682, SCP
This is the same thing as the last one, though. The brain, though, isn't it?
3519, SCP-1762, and SCP-2420. If you want to stop watching this guide now and start diving into the wiki, this is a good time to do so. But be sure to finish this guide if you're unsure of anything. Maybe you can pick one from the links from the description and then follow the cross links and navigation in the article.
You can write
Maybe
your
you can
own.
go to a series page. I highly recommend series 2 and 3 and just click on one with an intriguing title. Or you could roll the dice and press random SCP. One of the best ways to learn about the Foundation is to discover for yourself all the genres, emotions, and ideas it can evoke to keep that sense of mystery and gritty realism. There's still a lot to learn about the culture and vocabulary and universe of the site. You can find out and learn by yourself just by reading as much as you can. Playing it by ear, it's pretty fun that way. Or if you'd like to get a better handle on everything that's going on and a few more ways to drop you into the community, stay tuned.
Absolutely.
I still have a lot to show you.
This is so interesting.
Next up, in-universe elements. Foundation structure and protocol. Security clearance represents how much information about an object you're allowed to know. If you've read through an SCP or two, you're bound to have seen these. Data expunged, redacted, or the text completely blacked out. These keywords are common hallmarks and tools of narrative of the SCP Wiki, signifying that the information has been classified to a higher clearance or has been cleansed completely. It adds an element of horror through absence that is classic to the SCP fandom. For a great example of how security clearance levels can be used, read SCP-2317. There are also many types of workers in the Foundation. Among them, we have containment specialists, researchers, and security tactical response officers. There are field agents who are out in the world undercover, looking for signs of anomalous activity, and mobile task forces, special units that are assigned to carry out certain dangerous jobs. The task forces document contains a list of mobile task forces along with their associated SCPs. The Foundation is usually thought of as a far-reaching organization, and so their bases are found across the globe, and sometimes outside of it. These bases can be sites or areas. For more information, read Secure Facilities Locations.
You know what this makes me think of? Creepypastas, in a way. Where, like, people kind of have their own, like, twist on something and make it, like, really, really creepy and stuff. Is that kind of where... Am I on the right track? Comment below, maybe.
The leaders of individual areas or sites are high-ranking Level 4 researchers known as Site Directors.
So cool.
There are few in the Foundation that rank higher than Site Director. And they are the O5 Council, the ultimate leaders of the entire Foundation.
The Overseer.
The Overseer Council, abbreviated to O5, is a group of 13 people who manage all Foundation operations worldwide and have complete access to all information, redacted or not. Their identities are classified for safety, and they are only referred to by their ID.
This is like some, like, wild stuff, man, that I did not know about, that I'm just like, what? This is really cool. I'm not even gonna lie. This is really, really cool.
Classified for safety, and they are only referred to by their ID.
How have I not figured this out yet? Like, found this out.
13. In addition, some versions of canon also include the existence of an administrator, the creator of the Foundation. Finally, one of the most interesting parts of the Foundation are D-Class personnel.
D-Class.
Or Class Ds. The canon around D-Class personnel helps showcase the colder and more morally gray side of the Foundation. In order to experiment with and contain SCPs, the Foundation needs lab rats to test things with. The D-Class. Oftentimes, they are recruited from death row or the prison population, serving as expendable personnel that are used to handle hazardous anomalies.
Oh my
In the early days of the site, a common headcanon was that all D-Class were executed at the end of the month. However, this idea has gone out of fashion as the site has evolved. For more interesting stories about Class D personnel, try reading entries from the D-Class contest.
Wow.
Terms to know. The SCP Wiki has created a wide set of terminology and new innovations.
That's cool.
Inventing concepts that are unique to the premise of the site and found nearly nowhere else in literature. You may want to know these terms before you dive in.
Yeah.
Anomalous classifications. Memetic, or meme.
Memes.
A meme is any unit of information that can spread and transfer itself throughout society. Memetic effects deal with how the brain understands and reacts to media. It is a piece of data in the subject's mind.
Not the memes that I
has an
know.
anomalous effect on that subject's physical or mental state that is spread when someone else becomes aware of the same information. In particular, anomalous memetic agents are bits of hazardous information that are like a mental virus, triggering anomalous reactions in people who are exposed to them.
Yo.
Anti-memetic or anti-meme.
Ooh.
An anti-meme is the opposite of a meme.
Yeah.
It has self-censoring properties. Anomalous anti-memes are perfectly mentally camouflaged, whether by making you unable to hold your perception of one in your short-term memory or making you unable to comprehend the concept of its existence. Cognitohazard. A cognitohazard is something that is dangerous when we perceive it with one of the 5 senses. For example, a sound that causes you to bleed from every pore, or a smell that causes you to go insane.
Hi.
All memetic effects are a subset of cognitohazards, as in order to process the information, you have to sense it. Infohazard. Infohazards are anomalous effects that trigger when the SCP is described, referred to, or acknowledged. You don't even have to sense the thing to be affected by an infohazard.
I'm almost nervous. Like, scared. Is this dangerous? Like, should I be diving into stuff? I mean, I get it. It's like a harmless thing. Or is it? This is wild.
You just have to know that it exists. It affects data written about the anomaly and people that are made aware of the existence of the effect. Ontokinetic or reality bender.
Ooh.
An ontokinetic being can manipulate the laws of reality, magic, through anomalous means.
That's so cool.
Groups of interest contain and study reality benders, often in unethical ways, creating some moral crises for the Foundation. Anart or anartist. Anart is short for anomalous art. Many people and groups aware of the existence of reality-breaking phenomena choose to explore it by creating often surrealist art with extra-normal properties, these people being called anartists.
That's cool.
Narrativic or pataphysical. A narrativic anomaly manifests itself within works of fiction, often affecting the content of the work involved by creating characters, changing the setting, or blurring the line between fiction and the reality. The pataphorical or pataphysical SCP explores narrativic anomalies using the wiki itself as the narrative.
Ooh.
It explores the idea of characters we write on the website attempting to communicate and manipulate us, and being aware of things on the website like author pages, deletions, and discussion forums.
Anybody could go in and
Technology
like change
and
stuff.
engineering. Scranton Reality Anchor. Scranton Reality Anchors are technological devices used by the Foundation to essentially regulate consensus reality. They cancel out or prevent the effects of reality-bending entities.
I knew The Office. I know the show Office was all in this all along. Scranton, how dare they?
Regulate consensus reality. They cancel out or prevent the effects of reality-bending entities and anchor down areas where the level of unreality is higher or lower than normal, counterbending it so that it matches the reality that we know and inhabit. Many contemporary authors have criticized the widespread use of SRAs as a catch-all for containing any type of structural or ontokinetic effect. Telekill. The SRA back in the old days. Except the problem was worse. In its original form, it was a metal that blocked all mind-affecting or compulsive effects. People went crazy over it and started using it in all their containment procedures, and mistakenly thought it also blocked memetic effects. Scranton's rewrite of the article added some nuances and drawbacks to it, and its usage had fallen by the wayside anyway, as people have become more innovative with writing. Humes. A unit of measurement that measures the intensity of reality present in an area, crucial to understanding how SRAs and other technologies work. They are useful in quantifying how powerful reality-bending effects are relative to each other. K-class scenario, a term used to classify possible apocalypse scenarios, which the Foundation deals with on a daily basis when discussing the possible outcomes of dangerous effects or entities. The most common type is XK class, which describes a conventional destruction of the planet scenario. There are multiple minor ones whose exact definitions in canon are being argued over, including CK class, the restructuring of a reality, AK class, humanity goes crazy, SK class, the dominant species on Earth is no longer humans, and ZK class, reality universal
Apocalypse,
failure.
man.
Amnestic, mind wipe drugs, a narrative tool used by authors to explain A, how the Foundation is able to keep the masquerade of secrecy, and B, to create stories dealing with memory and knowledge. In universe, these are simply chemicals that erase a normal human's memory of some amount of time. When the Foundation has to recover an anomaly in the real world or seriously messes up, these are used.
Memory wipe, man.
Things to read and do. There's more to the wiki than the SCP series.
Yeah.
In this section, I open the door to the other areas of the site that are part of the Foundation universe, as well as answer some common questions about key but confusing parts of the site. What is SCP-1?
See, I reacted to this. SCP-001, everybody's like, oh, nah, you fell into that hole. Because it's not the actual first one. There's multiple SCP-001s. I didn't know. I was reacting to a comment that wanted me to react to it. So I was like, hey, that seems like a good start or whatever. But hey, this seems like a really, really good thing that's really explaining it. So yeah, what is 001?
What is SCP-1? In the early days of the site, when the wiki was just getting started, there was some debate over what should be this sacred number. 1. Everyone agreed that it had to be incredibly written. Everyone agreed that it had to be big, something deserving of the very first spot. But nobody could agree who should do the honor of writing it. The answer? Everyone can write their own vision of SCP-1.
Yeah.
Thus, the
That's
system
cool.
of proposals, an author's individual idea of number 1. They vary wildly and contradict each other. On the number 1 hub page, it says that the quote real number 1 is so secret that a number of false ones have been created. This explanation allows there to be multiple self-contradictory number 1s. One of them could be the true one to you. Or maybe you want a couple to be canonical at the same time. Maybe all of them are fake. Maybe all of them are true.
Whew.
It all depends on your canon and how much you like a given proposal. In effect, SCP-1 proposals are canon builders. Each one sets the tone for a particular author's vision of the Foundation itself. Creating an SCP-1 proposal is as easy as writing it and then submitting it just like any other SCP. Although, unless you're incredibly experienced, it will most likely get rejected by the community and deleted.
Gee.
As of November 2017, 19 SCP-1 proposals have been successfully posted. Each one is the product of a lot of work and a high concept.
Yeah.
Here are 6 of the 19. Number 1.
Let's go.
Dr. Clef's proposal.
Okay.
The Foundation was established to prepare humanity for the rapture or apocalypse. SCP-1 is the angel guarding Eden.
Yeah.
Number 2. Dr. Mann's proposal. The first and only natural anomaly was a spiral path in New York. A group of ambitious scientists experimented with reality using this as the thread and created every single other anomaly in the database. Number 3. S. Andrew Swan's proposal. The SCP Foundation is aware of its fictionality. They are currently discussing ways to kill their authors.
What?
Number 4. Rojit's proposal. Keter-class anomalies are an inherent part of the universe and can be contained using each other. By releasing all Keter-class anomalies, the universe can be manually restructured. Number 5. Twisted Gear's Cactus proposal. SCP-1 is one manifestation of the mechanical god worshipped by a clockwork cult, which wreaked havoc on the world before the military destroyed it.
Oh my word.
And finally, number 6, Kaladin's proposal. Humanity was originally a slave race whose suffering was harvested to create utopia on another planet. We escaped and then tried to cloak ourselves. The cloak failed, and our masters are trying to bring us home.
Which one do y'all think? I want to know in the comments, y'all. Oh, wow, this is crazy. This is insane. Let's go.
The cloak failed.
I don't know about me. I don't know. I'm still new to all this, but this is really cool.
Our masters are trying to bring us home. It's my personal suggestion that you don't start with SCP-1.
Yeah.
The proposals are usually quite complex and require some knowledge of Foundation lore, which is either played with, expanded on, or subverted. Read conventional SCPs before you take the number 1 deep dive.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Special classifications -EX, -J, and -ARC. There are other types of documents that use the basic SCP format and style, but utilized in a different way. This allows different stories with more diverse tones and themes to be told. The SCP-EX classification designates an SCP that is no longer considered anomalous. It is explained. The object or phenomenon in question still exists, but the Foundation has deemed it to be an acceptable part of consensus reality. Or it was a giant fake-out, or it turned out to be just a new scientific discovery.
Wow.
An SCP-J is a joke SCP, a parody SCP in a sense. Joke SCPs are explicitly non-canon, using the SCP format to joke around or make fun of something for the benefit of the reader.
Yeah.
They may riff on in-universe tropes like overwrought security, over-the-top containment, cold posting, or bad original characters. Or they may parody things like food poisoning, bad drivers, easily angered people, or that one movie. They may even make fun of the elements in the other popular SCP canons. Ultimately, a joke SCP is just a way to make the reader laugh.
Yeah.
If a joke SCP is not well written and very funny, it'll be downvoted. And finally, we have SCP-ARC, archived SCPs. These are usually legacy pages from the very old days of the site, when standards were low and the mass edit had not been conducted yet. While most of these SCPs were deleted, some of them needed to have text archives due to their usage in other tales or still existing SCPs.
Yeah.
Or because they were historically important. ARCing is no longer in use since the opening of Series 2, 3, and 4. And you will most likely never need to read one of these.
Wow. Really?
Tales, canons, and collaborative logs. Tales are how the Foundation universe gets deepened and extended beyond the limits of the simple SCP file. It allows authors to tell stories where groups or people can interact with each other in the SCP universe, to expand on ideas already created in SCPs, or just, to write a prose. Some authors may also turn their tales into a series, usually if they have a cohesive idea in mind, or if it gets really popular. Notable series include There Is No Anti-Memetics Division, The Cool War, The Lombardi Tales, Tales of Mr. Collector, and Pitch Haven. You can find Tales in the top-rated Tales archive as submissions to a themed contest or by trawling around and finding recommendations.
That's
You
cool.
can also, as we'll soon learn, read the tales in a canon. A canon is your own set of assumptions about the tone, setting, and dynamic of the universe. Each of the canons in the Canon Hub is a wildly different set of assumptions based off the baseline SCP Foundation. Think of them as mega tale hubs, or parallel universes, or self-contained cinematic universes for authors to play in. Here are 5 notable canons. Broken Masquerade, a world where the Foundation's existence is known by everyone. Resurrection, a deliberate attempt to resurrect the action-orientated SCP Dr. Crazy Days of Series 1, in which an MTF composed of anomalous humans is formed.
Whoa.
Third Law, a pulpy sci-fi paratech world dominated by the machinations of Prometheus Labs and Anderson Robotics.
Nice.
Rat's Nest, the military killed God, and the Foundation is covering it up. Reality is slowly unraveling and falling apart.
Wow.
The Gulf, small-scale poignant series set in the southern United States, usually having a restful, mysterious feel,
I'm in
and
the
featuring
South.
religious symbolism and unconventional types of media. A number of pages on the site are tagged as collaborative. Collaborative logs or pages can be edited and added to by anyone, although some quality oversight still exists. This is a good way to get your creative chops and contribute whilst not taking the plunge of writing an SCP. The 3 main collaborative pages exist as lists of mini SCPs, very small-scale items or phenomena that don't need to have a narrative, but still need to be unique, appropriate, and interesting.
Yeah.
They are Log of Anomalous Items. The SCP Foundation has discovered a substantial number of items which are simply too useless to merit further attention. This document lists those items which have prompted some curiosity. Log of Extranormal Events. This page is to document anomalous events that have attracted the Foundation's interests, but occurred too briefly for the Foundation to secure or contain them.
Ooh.
And finally, Log of Unexplained Locations. This page is to be devoted to the documentation of low-threat anomalous locations which have been discovered by the SCP Foundation over the years. There are a number of other collaborative pages, usually SCP supplements or logs. Keep in mind that guidelines for contributions still apply though, and if your edition is deemed to be below standard, it'll probably be removed.
Yo.
Groups of interest. The Foundation isn't the only fish in the anomalous sea. Other organizations, collective, and groups exist that utilize or create paranormal phenomena for their own purposes. Some are associates of the Foundation, others are rivals to it. Many of them quietly pursue their own interests,
Conflict.
while a great many of them fall on the lines of good and or evil. The vast majority simply have a goal in mind that's somewhere in between. Here are 7 notable groups of interest. Are We Cool Yet? A collection of artists, usually producing surreal and disturbing works of art. Their pieces are designed to have maximum impact and are usually lethal in some way.
Gee.
The Chaos Insurgency, a rogue cell of the Foundation that uses terrorist means to steal and repurpose powerful anomalies to gain control over nations and conduct unethical experiments using them. The Church of the Broken God, a widespread cult believing in a clockwork god who is broken into pieces all over the world.
Whoa.
Dr. Wondertainment, an individual or company that makes anomalous artifacts that are supposed to be children's toys. The Serpent's Hand, a small organization headquartered in an interdimensional library, believing in anomalous rites and the normalization of the paranormal and magical. Marshall, Carter, and Dark, a corporation that buys and sells anomalous items for the benefit of the super rich. Global Occult Coalition, or the GOC, a massive military organization under control of the UN, using technology and force to destroy the extra-normal wherever they find it.
Wow.
Many groups also have their own form of documentation, similar to an SCP. On the wiki, they are called GOI formats, and they are stories told from a different perspective than the Foundation. For more information, visit the Groups of Interest page, as well as the ongoing Groups of Interest overview and
This is
guide
serious,
on the
yo.
SCP Declassified subreddit. Beyond the main site, you can find stories and SCPs to read even beyond the classifications and places I've already detailed. In this final section,
massive.
I present other outlets of writing associated or tied to the SCP Wiki that you can also look into. Firstly, a great place for you to discover lesser known but very well written tales and SCPs are in the Contest Archive. For example, SCP-1000, 2000, and 3000 contests all have SCPs themed around urban legends, sci-fi, and horror, respectively. You have the Short Works contest, and the D-Class contest mentioned earlier, and the History contest for both Tales and SCPs. Then there are the gigantic, multi-part Mobile Task Force contest and Groups of Interest contest, and then the Dystopia and Reimagining contests, and so forth. There's so much to find.
Yeah.
The Wanderer's Library is set in the mysterious, ancient, magical Library of the Serpent's Hand. It includes prose pieces and poetry set in the SCP universe, but focused on evoking a sense of wonder, of the extraordinary and fantastical. Quote, a sense that there is a larger world beyond the one we know. In the world of the library, these wonders are hidden, but never truly far away. But never forget that this is a wilder world than our own, and it's never entirely safe, either.
What?
And finally, we have the international foreign SCP branches. There's French SCPs, Russian SCPs, Japanese SCPs, and a whole bunch more. Each brand has their own set of SCPs, many of which have extremely creative and diverse ideas. If you're looking for more SCPs to read, this might be a place to find cool concepts. And if you don't know a foreign language, the main SCP-INT wiki hub has translations of some of them.
That's so massive.
This was entirely written by Reddit user Modulum83 over on the SCP Declassified subreddit. All links will be in the description. If you enjoyed it, give Modulum83 some praise in the comments section for writing something I couldn't write myself. I hope it answered most of your questions about who we are and what we do.
This guy's
and
cool.
that it convinced you to take a dive and become part of the universe and the community.
Yo. Good job to the guy on this, though. There's the subreddit and the SCP. I'm sorry, I keep saying SCP community. Don't judge me. Yo, is that it? Is there other things? There's just Patreon.
/the Vulcan.
There you go.
Thank you.
I'd like to give some shout outs to the person that made this. Shows Patreons, all that good stuff. What an awesome logo, by the way. Look at that. Yo, so okay. I like I said, I had no idea. Like, I knew it was like gonna be big. I just never actually dove into this type of thing. But good grief, it's bigger than I ever thought. You know, it's like it's something so surreal. Like I said, it kind of makes me think of like something like a creepypastas, you know, stuff that people make up and just have fun doing, which is super like just it's so welcoming. Like makes me want to like look more into it and stuff. At the same time, I'm like nervous and like a little afraid because they're all the stuff that they said that could be dangerous and all this and that. Now I don't know if that's just something that maybe is to kind of give it the feel of what it is, to make people be like, oh, you know, like makes it more fun. You know, I don't want to be diving into something that I don't know, like not the whole thing entirely, but certain things inside of it. I'm just like, ooh, but like I actually want to check out some stuff. If you guys actually watching have made your own and you want to kind of like share it in a way, let me know. Even if it's something that like, I mean, if you can even comment or post about it. I don't know if they're gonna get onto the channel, but I want to like know some of the things that you guys would be like some ideas or something that you guys think I should go and check out, because I'm still kind of new to it and I'm like, wow, taking all this in makes me be like, what is all this? What? My brain's like, oh my goodness, this is so cool, but I can't keep up with it. But it's so cool. It really, really is. And I didn't realize how big it was. Like I said, I just had thought that maybe it was just a game. I always heard about the game that came out and the containment breach. That's the game I'm thinking of. Let me know where I can find that, by the way. I heard about that game. And apparently they're coming out with new games, by the way. Like multiplayer games you can play on Steam. Some games that have not even come out yet, which is really cool. If you guys want me to check those out, comment below. I would love to know. And what y'all thought about this video. If you guys liked it, make sure you punch that smile button in the face. Let me know. If you are new here, welcome. I'm brand new. Hopefully I'm like, you know, doing well with this and everything too, because I'm like trying to learn more about it. And yeah, I'm just a little baby in this, you know, just like growing my legs I guess you can say, my roots in this, you know. So it's really cool. And thank you for stopping by and all that good stuff, though. But anyways, without further ado, let me know if some other stuff I need to react to on this. There's so many nice, awesome, like, beautiful people out there that have come now from this community that's come to the channel. So it's really cool. But my name is Mr. Smiley. If you liked it, guys, hit that like button, all that good stuff, though. Without any further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you keep it on the bright side, guys. Keep smiling to the end. And we'll see you in the next one. We'll see ya.